Ron Siegel Radio, your home and mortgage connection.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
And hello again. Welcome to Ron Siegel Radio. This is the show with no real boundaries as we discuss current events, financial markets, politics, sports, even poking fun at the rest of the media. This is the show that connects the dots of confusion delivered by conflicting media reports. We connect the dots so you know the actions you can take, how your family or business can benefit in current events. Most of all, thank you for joining me. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day. We have a very focused show. We only chat about items that affect the roof over your head, your bank account, and anything I feel would benefit you. But before we get into our intriguing content today, please join me in welcoming our featured guest, first timer on Ron Siegel Radio. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to be chatting today with Sandi Shaner. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. How are you doing this morning?
Glad to have you with us. And hey, let me remind you, if you ever have any home or finance related questions, I am the consumer advocate looking out for you, and you can reach out to me directly. 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com. Just remember, that's the number you call anytime for assistance. When you call that number, it comes directly to me first. There are operators standing by.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
While I do have a great team when it comes to developing a financing plan or plan to save you money, I personally work with you. Even if you don't have any needs today, save this number in your phone for future reference. 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And yes, we're celebrating. We celebrate every day on Ron Siegel Radio. I like to celebrate. I think, I used to have a sound effect for this one, but I don't think I've got the sound anymore. Today's National Mutt Day. Okay, so I like dogs. I got a dog that I was told was an Aussie Doodle, but when it shows up on Google, it seems to say it's a Schnauzer Doodle. What is the truth? I have no idea. All I know is it cost me way too much money. But that's a whole different story. We're not going to go there today. That's a story for another time. Today's also National, hey Josh, maybe we'll take these in the order that we might eat them. Avocado Day. So, avocado goes good anytime. And I am a foodie, I will admit to it. So one of my favorites now, go down to Balboa Island, which I do on a regular basis. I'll be there tomorrow morning. Most people will be sound asleep at that time. I'm going to go down there and walk a couple of miles and be back in my office in time for an 8 a.m. appointment. So think about that one. But Toastique makes some great avocado toast right there on Balboa Island. Let's go after the avocado toast. We can go to National Chili Dog Day. I bet you could put some of that avocado on the chili, Josh, couldn't we? No, those are not Der Wiener Schnitzel hot dogs. Is that really chili dogs? What's the one that's downtown Los Angeles that Tommy's Chili? Now, it used to be like, I shouldn't say this, but I think it's past the statute of limitations. Back in the 80s, when most of you were not born, maybe it was the 70s, I should say, we used to go down to Tommy's Chili in downtown Los Angeles. Now, at that time, I lived in Anaheim. Go down to downtown Los Angeles. It was about 2 a.m, and there was a line there then too. That was before In-N-Out got so popular. So the chili dog right there. And you top it all off with some National Raspberry Cake Day. So look at that one. Looks like there's some strawberries on that one too, but there's no whipped cream. It's, oh well. But, having beaten anorexia, I'll go with all of them. So we like all the food stuff, but I will share on the journey because you've been on this journey with me. It's ironic enough. I should say this. So when I started doing radio back in 2010, that was about 3 years after I had bariatric bypass surgery. And my bypass surgery, I lost 162 pounds. Over time, I gained some weight back over the ensuing almost 20 years. Well, about 6 or 7 months ago, 8 months ago, I started the new journey. And as of today, down 81 pounds. So 81 pounds down on this new journey. I am excited for it. The only bad part is I'm cheap and none of my clothes fit me anymore. So 81 pounds. You want to get on the journey? rsrlinks.com/shot. rsrlinks.com/shot. Hey, let's see what the markets are doing because I can talk about some of this food stuff all the time. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 58 points. The S&P 500 is up 39 points. NASDAQ up 202 points. I think a lot of it, and I don't have it on my screen right now, but a lot of this is having to do with one stock. And that stock came out with a great earnings report. If you are an owner of Facebook or Meta, as it's now called, you're probably smiling a lot because that stock, I haven't looked at it in the last few hours, but it was up about 70 points earlier, 60 points up earlier in the day. So take a look if you're a Meta holder. It's up 12% for the day. When you talk about a stock like that that's up 12%, that's a big number. Microsoft, if you're a holder of that one's up a lot. So, if you're a tech holder, you're probably smiling a lot right now. That's what's driving it is those earnings reports that are coming out. We're also looking at oil down 83 cents a barrel. We like to see oil going down. That's a good thing. Unfortunately, some of us are still in Calizuela, and we're looking at gas prices here in formerly Golden State. We're looking at gas prices at $4.48 a gallon. We are, I believe, I'm going to look, it might be that maybe we're not number one anymore, but we've been running as number one for quite a long time. For some reason, my screen is not populating as it usually does. 447. So looks like Hawaii might be about the same price. So no, California is still leading the pack. Okay, so we are number one. At least we can claim to be number one in something. Oh, no, we're number one in taxes and gas prices. We did get a notice, though. We have a reprieve. More good news that was breaking yesterday if you were watching any of the news media. We've been spared. Kamala Harris is not going to run for governor. So that's more good news for us right there. But we did get the messaging from Jay Powell yesterday. If you could understand Jay Powell yesterday, you're way better off than I am.
Such an idiot.
Yeah.
Such an idiot.
So he tells us that the economy is softening, is slowing. He tells us that the GDP, when you look at the 2 months together, is pretty stagnant at like a 1.4% growth rate. Yes, I know it came out higher yesterday because of the way they did the tariffs. When you look at the tariff effect from the first quarter, tariff effect from the second quarter, average them together, the way that affected GDP, about 1% growth. Is that a hot economy, Jerome? Yeah, no, that's not very hot.
Idiot.
Then we look at the inflation number that he's focused on. That's not very high either. It's running at about 2.6%. And if we look at what the numbers came out this morning, core PCE came out at 2.8%. Not the 2% that they've self-imposed number, but here's the numbers that are affecting the market. And here's the numbers that Jerome should be looking at if he was awake. And yes, I do have from one of our prior guests, we have the wake-up call. Yes, he could wake up, but he doesn't. And we're looking at Challenger jobs layoffs. So Challenger, Gray, and Davis, I think they just go by Challenger now. They report layoffs each month. Well, last month it was 47,999. 47 million. Yeah. And this month it's 62,000. So we got more and more layoffs coming. Jobless claims still low at 218,000. We're going to get the BS report. I'm sorry, the BLS jobs report tomorrow. It's always wrong. And Jerome Powell in the press conference yesterday told us once again that it's wrong. So what happens is we're going to get the headline number tomorrow. It's BS. It is every month. They've proven that they're inept. They revise it for the next 2 months, trying to get it right. And they're still inept. And then we get from the Census Bureau a real number, and it tells us how inept the Bureau of Labor Statistics is, because they come out because they do a real survey, not a modeling. They do a real surveying of businesses, and the businesses are required to answer the survey or else they get fined. That'll give somebody an incentive. And they come back and they show us how bad the Bureau of Labor Statistics model is, but it's too late. Have you ever heard of anybody talk about the census jobs number? No. You don't even hear about the revisions. If you've got no life like me and you've got a screen that covers all this, it's right there on our screen. So I know what the numbers are. I know what the revisions are. I know what the prior numbers were. So I can tell you right now that non-farm payrolls were 147,000 is what we're expecting as far as 110,000 we're expecting. Last month they said 147,000. I'll tell you tomorrow what the revisions were. So we see that all the time, but when we look at the Bureau of the Census, they've come back and they've adjusted the Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers downward by as much as $200,000 people a month. So, but that's not what makes headlines. So we're just watch these numbers. We get the bad numbers. We have to deal with them. You are listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. When we come back, the 3 things you risk by pricing your house too high. We're going to chat about that. And we've got some great content for you today because we're going to talk about very special people today. And you can listen to that whole broadcast. If you miss any part of it, shame on you. We will have the replay on Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
Are you a veteran, own a home, and need money? The Siegel Lending Team is here to help veterans refinance and get the money they need. The VA 100 lets you borrow up to 100% of your home's value, refinance your mortgages, consolidate credit cards, and lower your payments by an average of $700 a month. And the Siegel Lending Team knows that character means more than a credit score. Call 800-306-1990. That's 800-306-1990. Rate subject to change without notice. Licensed by the California Department of Corporations, NMLS 21037, and DRE number 018694452. You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions, as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio. Or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The Mortgage Minute today is being brought to you by rsrlinks.com/mobile app. rsrlinks.com/mobile app. And every day at this time, OBMMI, they provide the most comprehensive, accurate, timely, and interactive analysis of pricing ever conducted in the mortgage industry, calculated from actual locked rates with consumers across 35% of all mortgage transactions nationwide. They do not tell us points paid, points received, or the APR. They tell us the number you need to put in your mortgage calculator to figure out what your principal and interest payment will be. Rates yesterday, conventional 30-year fixed. That was down 6.73. Jumbo 30-year fixed, 6.816. That was down. FHA 30-year fixed, 6.487. That was up. VA 30-year fixed, 6.317. That was down. USDA 30-year fixed, 6.416. That was down. And we won't see the Home Select, the best loan on the market, the all-in-one. That new rate will come out tomorrow, so we'll have that one for you as well. And remember, if you don't have the mobile app, get it, rsrlinks.com/mobile app. And every Friday, we do put out our weekend update. So if you want to get the weekend update, go to rsrlinks.com/HBOD. rsrlinks.com/HBOD. What's the markets doing right now? Well, once again, we look at the S&P 500 is up 42 points. The 10-year Treasury is down 3. That's on the yield. The bond pricing is up 11 basis points on the mortgage-backed security. Remember, when that mortgage-backed security bond goes up, interest rates are going down. So we like to see that. And let's talk about what's driving it, because all the data numbers, you know where to look. You can get all of that on the super secret website, google.com. So let's take a look at the Fed meeting yesterday afternoon. The Fed left rates unchanged as we expected. It's in a range of 4.25 to 4.5, as we thought. Both Fed governors, Waller and Bowman, dissented and were in favor of a 25 basis point cut. This was the first time in 32 years the two governors dissented at a meeting. Even though the Fed paused again, there is growing cohort of members that is more dovish. They're more in favor of cutting. The statement said that growth of the economic activity moderated in the first half of the year, which was a change from the previous statement, saying that it expanded at a solid pace. During the press conference, Powell said, and you know my feelings about Jerome Powell, I'm pretty vocal about it.
Idiot.
He said that the moderation in growth largely reflects a slowdown in consumer spending. I guess that means the economy's not doing real good, Jerome, right?
Idiot.
He also talked to GDP and said that you need to look at the first two quarters together because of the tariff impact on imports, which is exactly what we had said earlier in the week. Powell estimates that annualized growth through the first two quarters is at 1.2%. Pretty weak, huh, Jerome? On tariffs, Powell thinks there'll be a one-time price increase, which is one of the reasons he should not be delaying and cutting rates now. Powell acknowledged that the Fed is restrictive on the labor market, said that if you look at QCEW adjustments seriously, the U.S. may be near zero private sector growth.
Such an idiot.
The BLS releases a monthly estimate and then revises it in the subsequent 2 months, and then releases the QCEW much later. And that is the actual data. Another reason the Fed should be cutting rates. They are restrictive. Tariffs are a one-off price increase, and the labor market is showing zero private sector growth once the numbers are revised. Bank of America Institute data shows spending on services such as hotels, airfares, and dining has declined for 3 straight months, first time since 2008. Lower income households saw credit card spending decline in the 3 months through June for the first time in over a year. Another sign that the economy is slowing, and if the Fed wants to get ahead of it, they need to be preemptive. Come on, Jerome.
Idiot.
You need to wake up. I've told you that before, and many others have as well. I'm just a radio guy. These guys that get paid to say it are saying, Jerome, wake up. Right? Get ahead of some of these things. Unbelievable. Personal consumption expenditures, the Fed's favorite measure of inflation, showed that headline inflation grows 0.3% in June, which was as expected. Year-over-year inflation rose to 2.6% year-over-year, which is 1/10 hotter than estimates, but due to the previous report being revised higher by 1/10 on the monthly reading, and from 2.3 to 2.4 year-over-year. Take a look at that. Core rate strips out food and energy costs, and the Fed's main focus rose 0.3% as well, which was in line with expectations. Year-over-year, the core rate remained at 2.8% after the previous report was revised higher from 2.7 to 2.8. 3-month core run rate increased from 2% to 2.6, which is not great. The 6-month run rate increased slightly from 3% to 3.1%, but both of these figures are down from their February run rates of 4.1 and 3.4 respectively. Personal income rose 0.3%, which is 1/10 stronger than estimates, but spending rose 0.4%, which is 1/10 weaker than anticipated. Bottom line, the market took the report in stride, but it will be very hard to make progress on core inflation going forward until January or February because the upcoming replacements are very low. And if there is a temporary impact from tariffs, we could very well see inflation rise in the coming months. Initial jobless claims. BLS reported that initial jobless claims, which measures individuals filing for unemployment benefits for the very first time, rose 1,000 to 218,000, still low. Continuing claims, however, are still elevated, near the highest level since 2021. They're unchanged at 1.946 million after the previous report was revised slightly lower. This was a 10th report in a row where continuing claims are above 1.9 million, while layoffs were lower. As evidenced by the low initial jobless claims figures, once a worker is getting let go, harder to find a job. And, as I've shared with you, if you're thinking about locking a loan and you're wondering, should I do it ahead of the jobs report? Well, the jobs report is always BS. So you can't plan on it. If you cannot plan on it, how do you make a business decision? I'm suggesting lock ahead of the report. You can always restructure later, but I'm just getting that to you. Just be careful. That is the Mortgage Minute, brought to you by rsrlinks.com/mobile app, rsrlinks.com/mobile app. So let's get into the fun stuff today. Sandi Shaner is with us. We're talking about an author, about the book, The Journey, Embracing the Extraordinary, by Sandi Shaner and Greg Reed. We have to put his name in there, otherwise he gets mad at me. So when we send him the replay, we'll make sure that everyone hears that we mentioned Greg Reed.
Greg Reed.
Greg Reed. So we'll throw that out there. You got a lot going on, Sandi. Best-selling author, speaker, nonprofit founder, teacher, student, guardian to an angel. Now, and I saw in the notes that you're now a student. One of my favorite schools, right? So USC, almost football season. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I'm very proud to be a Trojan. That's 100% sure.
Nice. Okay, so I guess we should start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I do have a very long and strong background in the mortgage industry, but at one point in my life, I had to take a left turn.
That's a smart move.
Yeah, back in 2002, being frustrated as an auto mechanic, believe it or not, I was just tired of being dirty and working long hours in a shop and doing blue collar work. So I went and interviewed with Dan Pinto. I don't know if you guys remember that guy, Mortgage Marketing Group, and was hired in with him. Within a couple of years, I became his vice president of business development. And we did mortgage seminars with New Century Mortgage as the sponsor. And I did that with him for about 4 years. During that, I would say,
what was the heyday? There in the heyday.
The heyday. I was about to come up with a different word, but yes, I was going to call it the golden years of the mortgage industry, where a lot of money was being made. And then after I left Mortgage Marketing Group, I continued on working in the event industry, but now owning my own company, right? And so I recruited Doc Magic as my first big client, and I ran their Loan Magic tours. So we were bringing that Loan Magic software out to the individual mortgage loan officers, and that was a lot of fun.
And now you're a secret knock for how many years?
Oh, since Greg brought it out of his living room. So the first couple secret knocks were in his living room. And then the very first one that we did at a hotel was crazy because it was 50 people packed into a room that was set for 25.
Oh, wow.
And the most amazing guests, and everyone was just looking at each other going, wow, this is going to be huge. Right. And so I rode that train with Greg for like the first 8 years. And then I decided to go off and start to build my education.
So tell us a little bit about that part. Tell us a little bit about Carly's Cause. I want to hear about that one.
Well, Carly's Cause was my left turn. All right. In 2009.
Are you into NASCAR?
Of course.
Because all these left turns, isn't that NASCAR because there's always a left turn consistently?
Yeah. So with Carly, she was born with like bilateral cleft lip and palate. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with this, right? Facial surgeries. Look at Joaquin Phoenix. Look at the other people who are famous that have really done great. And then it turned into more epilepsy, brain tumors, autism, intellectual disability, scoliosis. I mean, I can go on. There's 15 different diagnoses. So about 4 years into all of these things coming at me, one diagnosis after another with Carly, I set up Carly's Cause, and I tried to focus on something that I can control, because in that environment, I was not in control. I didn't have anybody giving me any answers other than just another diagnosis, another therapy, another referral, And so once I set up Carly's Cause, I decided, okay, let's focus on communication. And we gave out iPads. This was prior to the pandemic. So it was hard to get an iPad. If you were a teacher or a student, you had like 6-month waiting lists from other nonprofits. So what I did is created a 30-day turnaround, and I would hold fundraisers for a group of students with disabilities and then deliver iPads to them. And then we had iPads for teachers too. And that was kind of cool. And that's
let's talk about that more when we
started.
Let's talk about that more when we come back. We're going to dig into Carly's Cause and what you're doing with that now and how you're helping people. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing real estate, current events, and the financial markets. The 3 things you risk by pricing too high, all that and more. Reach me anytime. Off-air number 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com, facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you missed any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube. Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
Confused about the home buying process? Or curious how much you really know about buying a home? Take the First Home IQ quiz to test your understanding of buying a home. Created by the nonprofit First Home IQ, this 5-minute quiz will give you a score, what you missed, and why. Take the quiz in 5 minutes at rsrlinks.com/FHIQ and find out what you need to know about buying your first home. That's rsrlinks.com/FHIQ.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The real-time real estate segment today being brought to you by rsrmoney.com, rsrmoney.com. Three things you risk by pricing too high. When selling your house, the price you choose isn't just a number, it's a strategy. And in today's market, that strategy needs to be sharp. The number of homes for sale is climbing, and that means buyers have more choices and can be more selective. If your price doesn't line up with what else is out there, they'll scroll right past it and go on to the next one. Pricing right from the start is your best move, and have a great agent that can help you make sure you do. Overpricing comes at a cost. And more sellers are finding that out the hard way. They list their house based on how things were a year ago or based on a neighbor's sale that happened under completely different circumstances. Then when their house didn't sell, they left with 3 choices. 1, drop the price. Cutting the price might help get more eyes on the house again, but it can also trigger red flags. Buyers may wonder what's wrong with it, and that's going to impact any offers you get after the price cut. Take it off the market. Some sellers give up on the idea of selling right now. The worst part about this is it means putting their futures plans on the back burner. That dream of more space, downsizing, relocating, right-sizing, all on pause. Rent it out. Others go to landlord route. But managing tenants and navigating leases isn't always the simple fallback it seems. Renting can work, but it's often a lot more hassle than people expect. None of those options were part of the original plan, and honestly, none of them are where you should end up if you wanted to sell. Here's a look at how a local agent's expertise can help you avoid these headaches. Now, I want to share with you one of the big problems if you price too high is the pyramid that we show you all the time on Ron Siegel Radio. If you haven't seen the pyramid, it's the impact of price on visibility. Right? If you show that if your property is being seen by, if you've got it priced at market value, you show 60% of the people will see it. Too high, and you're going to get down to 15%. And if you go low, you're going to hit 90%. I'm going to also tell you that using a strategy, I just shared this with some really good agents earlier this week. They've got a house that's priced at $1.3 million, and they're looking at it saying, it hasn't sold yet. I said, why don't you offer a price assistance program? A seller's offering a payment assistance. We do it with a permanent, and I showed them how they can do that with a rate in the 5s. Think about if that'll wake up some people. Where you live makes a difference. While the number of price cuts is up nationally, data shows some parts of the country are seeing far more of them than others. It all comes down to how much inventory has grown in that area. Want to know how much inventory has grown in your area? rsrlinks.com/market update. rsrlinks.com/market update. But you're seeing right now the chart on the screen of some areas are seeing more price cuts than others. And when you go to rsrlinks.com/market update, you will actually see what the price reductions are in your zip code, because this shows you national, this shows you state. rsrlinks.com/market update shows you your zip code. As realtor.com explains, quote, regionally, price reductions in June were significantly more common in the South and in the West, 23% of listings, than they were in the Northeast, 13% of listings, for reflecting the inventory divergence across these regions, unquote. That means pricing isn't one size fits all. What's happening nationally might not reflect what's happening in your zip code, and that's why you shouldn't try to determine your list price on your own. Have a great agent helps you nail the price. A skilled agent doesn't just toss out a number, as Zillow says. Well-priced homes are more likely to sell quickly, but pricing your home to sell quickly and for maximum dollar requires strategy and knowledge of your local market. You need to have a clear-eyed view of your home in relation to other competition and knowledge about whether you're in a buyer's or seller's market. It also helps to know what buyers in your area can afford. Take a look at rsrlinks.com/salesmax, rsrlinks.com/salesmax, and you'll figure out the value of the property, the best way to sell your property. That's going to give you the best strategy for selling. Want to know the value of your property? We'll send you a report every month. rsrlinks.com/homewealth, rsrlinks.com/homewealth. So don't skimp on the strategy on your agent. With their local market know-how, you'll be able to sell quickly, even in a shifting market. I do know or have a report card on almost every agent doing business throughout the United States. Let me know if you want a referral to somebody great. Overpricing can lead to tough choices you'd never want to face. But with the right price and the right guidance, you can skip the stress and sell with confidence. Let's connect so you have a pricing strategy that works for today's market and gets you where you want to go. That is the Real-Time Real Estate segment, brought to you by rsrmoney.com, rsrmoney.com. We're going to continue our conversation this morning. Sandi Shaner is with us. We were talking before the break about all these different things that actually it's all the left turns that Sandi makes. So I think we're gonna dub Sandi. We're gonna have to get you one of those jackets that has all the different sponsors all over every sleeve or something, like the NASCAR
Sounds
guys.
good.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
But let's talk a little bit about the nonprofit that you've created and what you're doing there.
Okay, so in 2018, right before the pandemic, it was about a year before all that started. I finally had a genetic test done on Carly and found out she had a rare disease. And so I finally had an answer, but let me tell you, it wasn't the answer I was hoping for, because this answer meant that there was no cure. There was nothing was going to get better. Things might get worse. Right. And it was at that point of diagnosis. I don't even know how many in the pocket I had at that point. But that diagnosis really bugged me, because when he handed it to me, he said, and by the way, you're going to need a new neurologist. And can you sign this document so that I can publish? Because you're the only person who has a daughter with this disease that had brain tumors. And I want to do a write-up about it. And then goodbye. And I was thinking to myself, what the heck? And I just spent 2 weeks.
He wants a favor from you to give you
Right.
a letter of consent, and then he wants to walk off on you.
And he referred me to a Facebook group for support. Now, this is a problem for me, and this is why during the pandemic, I decided to start a parent support group. And I started to hear other stories. These parents are all facing similar situations. At the point of diagnosis, they're not given anything. They're just given the diagnosis by the medical team. They're just given what fits within the budget by educators. Okay. But they're not taking care of the parents. Look at the homeless population right now. What percentage of that homeless population is actually suffering from some type of neurodivergent or mental illness? Where are those parents? Do you think those parents gave up? I do. And it's because nobody took care of the parents at that point of diagnosis. So I started to go on a journey, and I interviewed people, and I wanted to know what was in their mind. What were they thinking about? What happened to them and their kids? And I wrote the book, The Journey, Embracing the Extraordinary, based on those stories. It's several different parents were interviewed. I went to a geneticist to find out, okay, so how do you deliver these things? And this geneticist happened to be a special needs mom. So she spoke to me with compassion. I interviewed Greg Reed. Greg Reed's son was tragically hit by a car and suffered a traumatic brain injury. And because he stepped outside of the medical modalities available in the western half of the United States, he sought counsel from people all over the world, from all over the country, from his former wife, Alin, pulled in Eastern medicine, and they tried every modality. And I'm happy to say their son is at about 80% now, when the prognosis was not looking good at first. I interviewed ABA companies about behavior strategies for children with autism. And I put it all in a story format to where it feels like you're reading a novel. And this is a very important book, I think, because it's the first of its kind that takes you on this journey. And at the end of the journey, it's like, okay, we need to do something. Put together a 5-day action plan that these doctors need to give at that point of diagnosis. Don't just hand them a life-altering diagnosis and nothing else, right? And then we're having a seminar. We're going to build a 10-week stabilization course. That's where home buying, I would hope that you might come and speak. Teach about buying a home. We have a financial planner coming. Let's empower these parents to make right choices right from the point of diagnosis and reduce future homelessness, reduce institutionalization, right? And look, I know there's other parents out there who are hearing what I'm saying, or maybe you're an uncle or a cousin. And you're like, oh yeah.
Hey, I'm a grandparent, and I'm in that same boat.
And you get that news, and what were you given, Ron? What were you given when you were given that news?
No, we haven't got a real good diagnosis, but I've got kids that one's dyslexic, one's developmentally delayed. So I get what you're saying. That's why we've got a real heart for it as well. And you know something, Sandy, exactly what you said. I mean, my wife has been just amazing because there's no roadmaps. No one's going to tell you, what the opportunities and options are and what's available. You're just like, here's your kid, here's your diagnosis, figure it out.
The journey is the beginning of that roadmap. And what follows that we're building now will be available by the end of the year is going to continue that.
So the journey is, the book is called The Journey. I'm trying to find my notes on
Embracing the Extraordinary by Sandi Shaner. Yes, The Journey.
There you go. The Journey, Embracing the Extraordinary by Sandi Shaner. And I did look, it's on Amazon, so you can go there and get it right, have it delivered. I think they do it next day. They're pretty quick. And we're going to talk more with Sandi Shaner when we come back. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio. Discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. You can reach me anytime. Off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you have any questions, give me a call, 800-306-1990. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
Do you
you know a homeowner experiencing divorce? Do you know a real estate reference and the divorce decree could cost tens of thousands of dollars? A certified divorce mortgage planning and real estate report could save you thousands of dollars, and it's free from your local certified divorce lending professional. Reach out to Ron today. RonIsMyLender.com. Again, RonIsMyLender.com. Licensed under NMLS 217037, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. As frequently happens, I talk too much, but I will tell you that the Your Credit Matters segment today brought to you by rsrlinks.com/debt-free, rsrlinks.com/debt-free. If you want to get out of debt, that's where you start. rsrlinks.com/debt-free, Your Credit Matters. Continuing our conversation, Sandi Shaner is with us. She is a best-selling author, speaker, nonprofit founder, teacher, student, guardian to an angel, NASCAR driver, left turner, and event planner. Big time on that one.
Yeah.
So glad to have you with us. You had some stuff you had prepared for us, I think.
I did. So I'm in a doctoral program at the University of Southern California, and one of the tools that we use in planning our dissertation is called visionary fiction. Right. And so I actually wrote a very short story, which I'll need my glasses on to read. And I want to share that with you so that you can understand the impact of addressing the needs of parents at the point of diagnosis with something better than what we currently have. So just go on this journey with me. This is the year 2050, but the seeds of change were planted decades before by parents who refused to stay silent, by children who grew up to become leaders, and by a society that finally chose compassion over convenience. In this new world, the diagnosis of a child with disabilities is no longer met with fear or confusion. It is met with an army of other parents and professionals. From the moment a diagnosis is given, families are given that 5-day action plan to help them lay a foundation of a lifetime of care for their child. Then they are paired with a mentor, a professional advocate that's trained in medical systems, education law, and empathy. Finally, they are guided through an education program that shows them step by step how to establish themselves in a way that protects the family quality of life. Parents are no longer bystanders. They're part of a collaborative team. Their knowledge of their child valued equally with that of the professionals. Education systems have been updated and funded more equitably, with each school having an inclusion specialist who's trained in neurodiversity, trauma-informed care, and multiple theories of justice. The IEP process is no longer cut off at the age of 22, instead offering services through the lifespan and including plans for growth during adulthood that include support for aging parents. Siblings are supported with programs to help them process what's going on, to bond with their siblings, and to thrive in ways that lead them to support the family once the parents are at an age where care becomes difficult for them. Every community now has a parent support group where families connect, learn, cry, and grow together. Here, new parents are mentored by seasoned ones. Here, no one is alone at midnight Googling symptoms or crying into a bottle of wine. Here, financial planners help build long-term security. Here, parents of children with disabilities are no longer exhausted advocates in survival. They're entrepreneurs, scholars, board members, elected officials, and authors, because the support that they needed was finally given, and in turn, they transformed their world. I mean, can you imagine what we could get done with all of the problems that we face regarding mental health if we just started at the beginning?
You know something, that's just a very moving analysis, basically, especially for somebody that has been down the path. Our family has been down it. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize there's a very adversarial relationship with the schools. I look at it from both standpoints now, because I've got a dear friend of mine who just retired as the superintendent of schools in a district in Central California. I've gone through this and I've sued the school district 3 times myself.
Wow.
You know, so I understand the adversarial relationship. And, you know, I think, you know, you've got to, there's budget issues that the schools are dealing with, and the parents don't look at it like, you know, this is my kid, so I'm not really worried about the state's budget or the school's budget. You know, I just want what's best for my child. Then you get to that stage where you mentioned that, you know, what is there? And the other thing that you really you hit a nerve with is it's not an issue of the afflicted or the afflicted and their parents. It's an entire family issue, because we've had conversations, my wife and I, with our other kids saying, hey, you know something? You know, we're not going to be here forever. And hopefully we go before our kids do.
Yeah.
What happens then? How do we plan for that? So you have that a lot of conversations you got to have in there, Sandi.
Absolutely. And I told you I had to make a left turn when I left for a little while. I left Secret Knock. I'm back on that team now while in the doctoral program. I love being around Greg. But when I did make that left turn into education, I knew there was something that I had to do because I was not comfortable. Like, you know, inside when you're not feeling good about whatever it is, whatever you want to spearhead your campaign towards. And this was it. And I kept going down this path until I realized exactly where it all started. It was at that point of diagnosis. And the entire journey needs to be different for those in the future.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And you know, there's some people that don't even get it as clear, you know, whether you like the diagnosis or not. A lot of times you don't even get a real clear diagnosis, right? What is it and what do we need to do? How do we need to do it? So tell me a little bit about the seminar you've got coming up that you're putting together.
Well, I have to film the 10-week stabilization plan so I can create a college level course available for parents nationwide. So on September 13th, we are going to be at a United Way building in San Diego, graciously donated to us by 0800, which is a military nonprofit that is really interested in getting this content out to military families. And we're going to bring in experts who are going to do small segments about every little topic that aligns with building a more positive future for parents of children with disabilities. And so we would like to invite anyone listening to come. And you want me to tell them about the special opportunity? Okay. Well, here it is. Normally you'd pay $47 for the ticket to be there because there's food served and other stuff like that. However, if you just show me a receipt that you bought the book for somebody, if not you, then you can go for free, or you can send somebody to that event for free. Because really it's about you as the parents and as the caregivers and the family.
That's a great offer there. So the book we told you the book, you can go find it right there on Amazon. It's nice and easy. And I have, you know, I thought I highlighted the name of the book, but tell us again the name of the book.
The Journey, Embracing the Extraordinary by Sandi Shaner, and Sandi spelt with an I.
Okay. And, you know, just so you and I don't get in trouble, we're going to say The Journey, Embracing the Extraordinary by Sandi Shaner and Greg Reed. So we have to.
Yes. Well, Greg Reed I feature his son's story in the book, and he wrote the foreword, and he is my publisher. So yes.
Yeah. And Greg's a wonderful guy and a connector extraordinaire. And he really does promote a lot of really, really, unbelievable people. I've met some of the nicest and greatest people that I've come across through my relationship with Greg over the last, 10 or 15 years. But Greg does a great job with that. So even though I kid about it, Greg is a wonderful, wonderful human. Again, the book, The Journey, Embracing the Extraordinary by Sandi Shaner and Greg Reed. Go buy the book, send a copy of the receipt to Sandi, and we'll have that available to you through Ron Siegel Radio. And then go to the event that she's putting on at the United Way in San Diego, September 13th. And as always, I ask, set that first radio preset button to come back here and join Ron Siegel Radio, where we only speak about items affecting your house and your bank account. Thanks to all of our sponsors. A big thanks to Josh and Sean who are engineering us today. And of course, a special thanks to you for spending a little bit of your day with us. That's all for Ron Siegel Radio. Again, if you have any questions or to meet any of our guests, call me anytime, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990 or ronsiegelradio.com. And remember, make a lot of money so you can help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on Ron Siegel Radio.